Hello, and thank you for joining us. President Trump is defending his decision to launch strikes on Iran as the conflict in the region widens tonight. But his explanation about the timing of the strikes appeared to contradict what his administration said Monday. In the Oval Office today, the president claimed without intervention, there would have been a nuclear war and Iran would have, quote, taken out many countries.
But I thought we were going to have a situation where we were going to be attacked. They were getting ready to attack Israel. They were getting ready to attack others. You're seeing that right now. And a lot of those missiles that are hitting in, those are stationary. Those were aimed there for a long period of time at these other countries. So I think I was right about that. We attacked first.
As a reminder, Secretary of State Marco Rubio on Monday claimed the U.S. got involved because Israel was planning to strike, which would have triggered retaliation from Iran. Here's what Secretary Rubio had to say about the contradicting statements today.
The bottom line is this. The president determined we were not going to get hit first. It's that simple, guys. We are not going to put Americans' troops in harm's way. If you tell the president of the United States that if we don't go first, we're going to have more people killed and more people injured, the president's going to go first.
On day 4 of the conflict, Israel sent troops into Lebanon as the war widened, and Iran launched retaliatory strikes across the region, including a hit on the U.S. embassy in Saudi Arabia. A drone also hit the grounds at the U.S. consulate in Dubai. No one was hurt, but in Iran, the death toll is rising. The Iranian Red Crescent says almost 800 people have been killed since the conflict began. The State Department is urging Americans to leave the Middle East. So far, more than 9,000 U.S. citizens have returned to the U.S. from the region over the past several days. Secretary Rubio says about 1,500 Americans are requesting help to come home. The agency is coordinating charter, military, and expanded commercial flights to help get them out. The war is also raising economic concerns. About 20% of the global oil and liquefied natural gas shipments flow through the Strait of Hormuz, located on Iran's southern border. President Trump said today the U.S. Navy would begin escorting tankers through the strait as soon as possible. CBS News chief correspondent Matt Gutman is in Tel Aviv, Israel, with the latest.
Just a few minutes ago, we saw what we believe to be Tomahawk missiles flying eastward, we believe, towards Iran. And just a few seconds ago, we saw something streaking across the sky, likely an incoming missile that might have been intercepted, but far away enough from us that we didn't receive sirens. And the idea is that there are lots of flying bodies crisscrossing the Middle East right now, from U.S. warships. There are Israeli warplanes, American warplanes. There are drones from Iran, missiles from Iran, interceptors flying. But you know what's not flying? Commercial airlines. Commercial airlines with people on them. Lots of folks, civilians, millions of them caught in the crosshairs in the Middle East right now, including up to 1 million Americans, we are told, who are stuck trying to get out. We've heard from Americans here in Israel, from Dubai, who are taking buses and trains to get to airports in countries that actually have planes flying out to try to get home. There are thousands and thousands of people stranded. The State Department now saying that they are going to get charter planes, military planes, in order to try to help people get home, to repatriate them. That, as we've also seen, especially in the Gulf, U.S. assets being hit, multiple U.S. bases, but also the consulate in Riyadh and other U.S. facilities as well. That is a growing concern here, as we're understanding that the Gulf countries are getting increasingly edgy. And something that we just noted a few minutes ago is that the UAE announced that it reserves the right to self-defense against Iran's missiles. 1,000 missiles have hit the Gulf states just over the past 4 days. And that might indicate, that UAE statement, that they might also get into the fight. So this war continues to expand. Back to you.
Matt Gutman, thank you. CBS News White House reporter Aaron Navarro joins me now. Aaron, can you explain what we're hearing from the president and his officials on why the U.S. struck when it did? Was it intelligence? Was it a feeling?
Lindsay, what we've heard from President Trump today is that it was more so a feeling informed by what he had heard from those nuclear negotiations with Iran in the past few weeks. He said it was his opinion that how Iran was acting during those negotiations indicated that they were going to attack first, though he did not give intel if that meant they were going to attack Israel first, U.S. bases in the region, or both. But one senior administration official told reporters today it was, quote, very clear that Iran was trying to draw out this negotiation process and potentially pass the term of President Trump to allow themselves time to build a nuclear weapon. President Trump today also said he may have forced Israel's hand to do this coordinated strike that launched this war with Iran, which does run counter to what Secretary Rubio told reporters here on Capitol Hill on Monday, that the U.S. was aware Israel was going to attack Iran, and out of concerns of retaliatory strikes from Iran on U.S. bases, that they had to attack first.
I want to go ahead and play what Senator Lindsey Graham said earlier today.
We're going to achieve victory. Nobody asked how long would it last in World War II. This regime is not not if it collapses, it's only when. We're going to unleash holy hell on them here any minute now. They're going to fall, and we're going to have a better world.
A couple of eye-popping comments there. First of all, comparing this to World War II. Second of all, saying we're going to rain down hell on them any minute now. Where does this go from here?
Yeah, in terms of unleashing, quote, holy hell, as Senator Graham said, both he and Secretary Rubio today have indicated that larger U.S. strikes on Iran are coming, in Rubio's words, in the next few hours and days. The Secretary of State said, quote, you're going to really begin to perceive a change in the scope and the intensity of these attacks, and that Iran's missile program, navy, and factories will be hit.
Aaron Navarro, thank you. We're closely watching the impact of the war in Iran on oil and gas prices and what it could mean for global supply. Economic data tracker Trading Economics shows the price of crude oil climbed about 5% to about $75 per barrel. And AAA says the average cost of gas in the U.S. is up 11 cents to $3.11 a gallon. CBS News Money Watch correspondent Kelly O'Grady explains how all of this is affecting the stock market.
Well, it was quite the wild day on Wall Street. The Dow down close to 1,300 points at one point during the session, ended up just around down 400, so a slightly worse than sort of negative average day. But what drove this is this big old pile of uncertainty that we find ourselves when it comes to this conflict in Iran, how long it's going to last, how large that conflict is going to spread in the region, and of course, what it is going to do to oil prices. Now, we'll touch that in a second, but the big fear for investors is if you see oil prices, energy prices continue to tick up, that raises the question of whether we are going to see inflation become a problem again. Remember, that's something that we've, for the most part, gotten under control, a little bit stubborn, but if we were to see oil creep up to over $100 a barrel, that would be very concerning, and investors certainly don't want to see that happen, and what might happen with interest rates if we were to see an inflation problem sort of ratchet back up. Now, on the oil prices front, we had heard from the administration that we were going to see some mitigation acts because, of course, not only is the Strait of Hormuz and the transport of oil through that very important narrow choke point at risk right now because of the conflict, but also the surrounding regions, the energy infrastructure in Saudi Arabia and Qatar, with all of the missiles going back and forth and sort of that conflict continuing to spread. What we heard from the president today on True Social is that the U.S. will be offering political risk insurance, so essentially insuring ships that are going through the Gulf, whether they be oil and gas or just regular old trade. They will be insured against any type of terrorism or war or any damage that would come to it. And that was something that had come into question from traditional insurers. We were hearing about that earlier today. On top of that, the U.S., if necessary, will offer naval escort to those ships going through the Strait of Hormuz. And so what that is designed to do is incentivize these oil tankers, these ships, to go back into the strait and sort of feel more safe about being able to transport that very important oil and gas source from point A to point B. Now, whether this is something that they are going to take advantage, you can see that reflected in what investors think with what happened with the price of oil today. As soon as that announcement was made, you saw oil prices still higher on the day, but they came down a little bit. We were only up about 4% today versus up 9% at one point. So that, of course, does seem to be something that investors liked. The bigger question for me, though, is if you have solved or at least done something to mitigate the risk when it comes to the transport of that oil through the Strait of Hormuz, What about the production of the oil, the energy infrastructure that was hit in Saudi Arabia, Qatar having their liquefied natural gas operation shut down? Right now, there's no solution for that with the conflict continuing to go on in the air. So something to continue watching. We'll be watching markets tomorrow and oil prices for sure. Hopefully less of a wild ride than we had today. I'll send it back to you.
All right, Kelly O'Grady, thank you.